Beyond the hype, my probiotic journey, what I learned when I actually dug deep. So, the inner workings of our gut used to be shrouded in mystery, but in the last decade, with conventional medicine discovering more about the intricacies of our gut microbiome, a new health industry buzzword has been floating around: probiotics. But does this concept really live up to the hype that we're seeing in the clickbait health articles? Or is there something deeper going on? In this episode, we're going to talk about what a probiotic even is, whether or not they actually are effective for supporting a healthy gut, and some food-based alternatives that I generally prefer. Naturopathic doctors have been touting the benefits of probiotics since before I was even born. And truth be told, I have been a naysayer on them, and in true to form, I love to challenge myself and dig a little deeper to make sure that if I'm going to trash talk something, I got the whole story before I do that, which I haven't. So I learned a thing or two, and we're going to talk about it. What are probiotics even? Okay, the definition has changed a ton over the last several decades, in fact. But really what it comes down to is a product or food that contains live microorganisms. And what's important to note is they're going to be labeled appropriately, whether it's a food product that, like my kid's little yogurt chew things that he eats, says the species of the bacteria in there. And the supplements are going to say them as well. So if a supplement says probiotic, but it doesn't say what species and genus is in there, it's not actually considered a probiotic. And, one last thing, we're going to talk about fermented foods. And while typically fermented foods don't have the specific genus and species on the label, all good. Like, that's part of a wild ferment. Okay, so when you're looking at the label of a probiotic, does it matter how much is in it? Does it matter the species? Does it matter? A good product has three things: the genus, the species, the strain, with CFU, rather than just a proprietary blend. And so, for example, the strains include something like Lactobacillus rhamnosus, and then you see the strain is the CUL63. And I'll show you a product that I've got. The other one is like Bifidobacterium animus subspecies lactis. And again, that parentheses is going to have the specific strain. Okay, these specific strains are typically tied to the group of researchers that cultured them or the lab that cultured them. Now, do we actually really need to be taking probiotics all the time? While intestinal permeability, aka leaky gut, is super common in Western cultures, probiotics aren't all the same. And so in intestinal permeability, leaky gut, that's basically when the gut, the single lining of cells gets a little inflamed and food particles, microbes start being exposed to our nervous system and immune system, and that's not what we want. Now, CFUs, or colony-forming units, is the specific amount of the probiotic that we want. And this is something that's so important, because the kitchen sink probiotics we'll talk about here in a sec is like, you got a bunch of strains, you don't have a ton of the CFUs, and you're not really getting a meaningful amount of any of the probiotic strains. And typically adults need 10 to 20. This amount will vary if you're going to treat a specific health condition, but 10 to 20 billion CFUs is a meaningful amount for each strain to be in. Kids need a little bit less, about 5 to 10 billion CFUs. Now, I mentioned this kitchen sink probiotic. These are the probiotics that got like 10, 20 strains in them, and they're a proprietary blend. And, it says, oh, you got like 10 billion CFUs of these 20 strains. Cool. You just spent $60 on a product that's not really going to do much. And I don't love those products at all, actually. And typically I hear back from patients, oh, I don't really feel much of a difference. I always ask, how do you feel? Do you notice a difference? Oh, no, I don't notice a difference. Okay, well, there's a better option, and we'll keep talking about that here in a second. But can too much of a good thing be bad? Well, the due diligence in me says, of course it can. Typically, though, what I find with probiotics is people just spend a bunch of money. They don't really get anywhere. Like, they don't notice any effect. But some of the negative things that, in theory could happen is more gas, more bloating, maybe looser stools, and just like generally your gut's not feeling their best. Now, let's talk about spore-based probiotics. Many of my colleagues really love these products. I think the hype is hype. But in theory, based on the data that I read, and all of my citations will be added to the show notes, spore-based probiotics are pretty neat because they have a coating that allows them to get through the lining of the stomach. And the stomach is super acidic. And so we want that to get down to the lower part of the digestive system to repopulate the flora, right? So that's what's really awesome. The other piece that's really cool about the spore-based probiotics is that they withstand antibiotics. So if you're taking antibiotics for an infection, and this is one of the clinical reasons I prescribe probiotics, is to take them concurrently with an antibiotic. That way we're not just leaving the gut super nuked. Now, I mentioned that I do probiotics with folks that are taking antibiotics. And clinically, I really don't use the endospores or the spore-based probiotics. I see the, regular probiotics seem to work well enough when a patient has something like gas, bloating, and a little upset guts from taking a antibiotic, which are sometimes necessary, right? And again, my colleagues really love these spore-based probiotics, but for the price and the benefit that I've not seen patients have, I don't think it's worth it. Refrigeration. Okay, here's another really big one. And while I do have like a refrigerated probiotic I give my kiddo, and I do use them from time to time, and fermented foods are refrigerated, does a probiotic have to be refrigerated in order for it to work effectively? Not what I've seen clinically. Actually, there is a specific brand that's shelf stable, which means it does not need to be refrigerated. And that's the probiotic I've seen the most effectiveness with, meaning people getting benefits from it. So no, refrigeration is not the key to probiotics being the best. And oftentimes, like I said, shorter shelf life, and they tend to be more expensive when they're refrigerated. Okay. Now, can probiotics actually cause harm beyond the gas, bloating, and upset stomach? This is where I heard some data being shared at a conference that was shared, or I heard it incorrectly. So there's a hot microbe right now called Akkermansia mucinophilia. And this is a cool bacteria because what it does is it breaks down mucin. You ever hear we have too much mucus? This is like a bacteria that's going to help to break that down. Okay, super awesome. Mucin is the mucus lining of our gut, and we need the right amount, kind of like a Goldilocks situation. We need enough to feed our microbiome, but we don't need so much that it's kind of getting lost and it's like gooey and yucky in there, right? Like then you're pooping out mucus in your stool. Now, here's the deal with this Akkermansia. What I heard was Akkermansia is associated with multiple sclerosis, or MS for short, which is a really gnarly neurological autoimmune condition, right? And I misunderstood these study findings. And again, this study is cited in the show notes. What the authors of this study that found elevated Akkermansia species with folks that have MS, this is what they suggested. Rather than Akkermansia as the cause of the multiple sclerosis, it's actually more of like a cleanup crew that's happening. The body is trying to salvage the situation. And what's really cool about this is such in line with naturopathic thinking, that the body is doing the very best it can with the tools that it has, right? Cleanup crew rather than the cause of the problem. So this brings us back to the question is, can a probiotic be harmful? And this is what I said earlier. Your typical indigestion, gas, bloating symptoms, too much of a good thing can be a problem. But like I said, most people are taking those kitchen sink probiotics. I don't really find them to be super problematic besides a hole in your pocket. So the data on probiotics were really cool. And I think I found maybe 11 or 12 citations to kind of talk about this. I found some really cool data in support of taking probiotics for metabolic conditions, things like diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is now called metabolic liver disease, cardiovascular disease, autoimmunity, atypia, which is things like eczema, allergies, and asthma, neurodegeneration. And this is neurodegeneration, things like dementia, Parkinson's, ALS, and then vaginitis. And the things that I have used probiotics for clinically up to this point have been antibiotics when you're taking oral, or probiotics when you're taking oral antibiotics. And right, like I said earlier, spore-based probiotics, like they have a scientific basis using them here because they are antibiotic resistant. And then IBD. inflammatory bowel disease, things like Crohn's disease, microscopic colitis, and ulcerative colitis. This is where I've used probiotics the most in my practice, especially if a patient's had surgical resection, where like the little gateways, the doors that block the different neighborhoods is the way I describe it, from getting overflowed into the wrong spot. So having probiotics in there can be really helpful. And then vaginitis, which this can be BV, bacterial vaginitis. It can be yeast overgrowth. And I have patients both vaginally and orally take probiotics, mostly Lactobacillus species. Now, the research disease types, one of the things that I found was conflicting information about atopic dermatitis, aka eczema, mixed results. But the main thing that we see with probiotic use and eczema is improved inflammation. And right, like naturopathic doctors think about the gut and the skin. The skin's a reflection of how the gut's functioning. So everyone needs a probiotic, right? I'm still not convinced that that's the case. And so here's the things I hear. Oh, I was marketed a super expensive product and I'm convinced I need it. Or this multi-level marketing company, don't get me started on them. The truth of it is sometimes we need to stop scrolling, stop listening to the talking heads and the overzealous marketing folks trying to sell us some multi-level marketing scheme crap. Okay, while I do understand that sometimes these products are very helpful and they change people's lives, this marketing goes down and really hooks into our emotional self of the parts of ourselves that don't feel our best. It's like, you need my product in order to not suck. That's a big red flag. And if you start hearing like you're not going to be good enough or cool enough or pretty enough without my product, close it, delete it, block them, stop following them. The best probiotic, if you're going to do a kitchen sink type of thing, the most effective one is to get some fermented foods. It's not overpriced. They taste pretty good. Kimchi's my personal favorite. They're really yummy if you can make your own, but most grocery stores these days are selling refrigerated probiotics. And the thing about fermented foods, right, is most cultures around the world eat them. Okay, there is kefir, both dairy-free coconut options, dairy varieties, yogurt, pickles, kombucha, miso, tempeh, apple cider vinegar with the mother, natto, which is ghastly if you've ever had some fermented food of it, and then fermented fish, a global delicacy that I will probably never put in my mouth. Not my favorite, but hey, to each their own. Find the fermented food that you like, right? The fermented cabbages are super easy and pretty accessible for most folks. I have a patient who really loves miso soup. Like, whatever it is that you like, go for it. Refrigerated yogurt, pickles. Not all yogurt and pickles are fermented, okay? Pay attention to the labels. What's really cool about fermented foods is not only do they increase our microbial diversity, but they also help with microbiota remodeling. What this means is it starts to change how our gut. So maybe you tend towards more inflammation, more gas and bloating, and all you start adding in is a tablespoon of fermented kimchi every day. What you're going to start to happen is the foundation of your microbiome is going to start changing. Now, here's where I'm going to be a little sassy with you guys. You cannot out-supplement a shitty lifestyle, okay? This is what a mentor of mine once said. You get 2 vices in life, and sex and chocolate don't count, okay? You have a few flaws. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm looking for consistency. But if you're severely abusing your mind, body, and soul, and you're expecting some supplement to save your life and make everything better, you're maybe delusional. I'm not sure, but maybe check yourself. Make sure that you are prioritizing eating well, and this means balanced meals that are energetically active in real food. Food, as in not food with a U, the fake ultra-processed food, and occasionally whatever. But if that's what you're primarily eating, not the most optimal for your health. Okay, that you're getting quality rest, and this is play, real rest, and sleep. Daily movement, stress management skills. Work on those. Everybody needs better stress management skills. Having high quality, trustworthy relationships and community that you can lean on. And some kind of faith-based practices that are important to you. I don't care what they are, but something that allows you to tap into a deeper part of yourself. Good hydration and improved self-awareness. Bottom line, you need to take accountability for your actions, and there's not a supplement that's going to solve your problem. 1, no, not everybody needs a probiotic supplement, even with leaky gut being super common. And there are a lot of medical reasons to take specific strains. Clinically, I look for products that are specific to the area in need. Say, so you have vaginitis, so look for a product that helps to support that area. You're looking for a product that has 3 to 5 strains with specific CFU, genus, strain on the label. Okay. I'm a big fan of fermented foods. They are a better way to go for those of you looking to just support your microbiome. And they're relatively easy to make or buy, and they taste pretty yummy too, minus natto and fermented fish. But if that's your jam, awesome. They're better, cheaper, and they support your gut at remodeling, reducing inflammation, and reducing intestinal permeability. The citations are going to be in the show notes. If you guys found this episode useful, valuable, controversial, annoying, drop a comment. Let's talk about it. Share it with a friend. Now, the best way that knows that this information is getting across to someone that's interested is you subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate your guys' support, and we'll talk soon.